I wonder if Lorenzo Insigne is going to see some sunny days with Toronto FC, or if it is clouds, if it is lights out. As we know, gentlemen, Lorenzo Insigne last played for Toronto FC on October 5th. And we've also heard the stories in the offseason with the team bringing him offers, him rejecting them, him not being part of the squad that went and faced DC United in their first game of the year. So it's a really simple question, Wheels. Has Lorenzo Insigne played his last game for Toronto FC?
Is it a simple question? Nothing's ever straightforward. I've been saying this for weeks, though. This is part of a contractual standoff that continues to play out. Both sides are working towards a buyout. Toronto FC have one number that they're prepared to pay, and Lorenzo Insigne has another in mind. And right now, it's a staring contest. And by not playing Lorenzo Insigne, it's kind of like the Seinfeld equivalent of Play Now trying to fire George Costanza when they realized he didn't really have a disability and he just faked it because he wanted the really nice washroom to use. They made his life uncomfortable. So what is Toronto FC going to do to Lorenzo Insigne? They're just not going to give him football. Now, unless there's some crazy U-turn by Toronto FC, I can't see any way that he sees the field for this club, not just the short-term future, but the long-term future as well. TFC aren't pressing the panic button here. I think they're fine going into the season the way they are. But I think what they really like to do in the summer months is add another designated player, potentially an attacking midfielder, another striker to the regiment. That means that Lorenzo Insigne needs to go. So I think that that's more of a hard time limit when there could be wiggle room. But do I expect Lorenzo Insigne, like I've been saying for weeks, to be seeing the field for Toronto FC? No, there's a complete change in tactic. They went for a couple of years of coddling to now an offseason of criticism. And that's where we are right now. The relationship is broken. I think it just comes down to Insigne himself. Like, how much does he want to get out? And right now, with the windows closed across big leagues in European football, places where he thinks he's still good enough to play, there's nothing for him to the summer months, really. So I just don't see there being a sense of urgency. And for the time being, I think the place where Lorenzo Insigne will be watching is much like you and I. It's going to be on the television screen.
Do you think he's watching?
It's a good question.
Tuning
I'd love
in
to know.
Here's the thing, like obviously, at this point they're freezing him out. Like, that's been evident the entire offseason, looking for another club for him to try to join, which he seems to have turned down all the options they offered there, maybe for decent reason. Now, obviously, as Will said, trying to find a number that they can agree to on a buyout. Pre-season, he doesn't spend any time really with the starters. He's always coming in with the B team late in the pre-season games. And then DC United, he doesn't travel. So, all the indications are that they're done with him and he's not going to play for the team again. We'll see if at any point that changes. I wouldn't think it's particularly likely right now. But the question for me still is kind of what is incentivizing Insigne to agree to favorable terms to Toronto FC? Like, I know Will said that they're trying to make him feel uncomfortable, but is this really going to do that? Like, I don't know. He doesn't have to travel now to all these different places in North America to play games anymore. He gets to sit at home, earn his money, do very little to basically just not be in breach of his contract. If this player has real ambitions of, continuing his career and playing somewhere else, then obviously there's going to be at some point a breaking point where he wants to go and do that. I'm just not sure, based on what I've seen from this player over the past 12 months. Does that exist? I don't know at this point. I think it looks like his career is basically over.
I think that's sad that we even bring that up. I mean, this is a former captain of an Italian national team, European Championship winner, captain of Napoli. And to say that he has fallen so far off the grid that he wouldn't care whether he plays or not. I mean, the fact that we're even questioning that, we're not saying that's the case, but the fact that's even being questioned is remarkable to me. Who was it? Bielsa came out and said that MLS makes players lazy. that was Bielsa's take. I mean, has Insigne just lost that fire since he came to Toronto, Wally? I don't know.
But there's just the reality, though, right? Like, when you played for a club like Napoli at the top levels of European football and for Italy as well your entire career, like, how hungry are you to go and play lower down somewhere in Europe, which is going to be the reality for him at this point? Or do you call it a day at this point, having earned plenty of money. I don't know.
It's a tough one because I understand everything you're saying, but then there's also pride. And to your point, people are noticing how he's reacting here with TFC. I mean, you look at 54 games played, 14 goals scored. He's made close to $50 million. Granted, TFC signed him to that deal. Bill Manday, I'm not going to begrudge someone going, sure, I'll take that money. But it takes two to tango. So when you sign that deal, you're also agreeing to give it your all. You're also agreeing to fulfill your end of the bargain. 14 goals for close to $50 million. And now you're making it very difficult near the end here. Your reputation is now going to precede you. And to your point, Ollie, I think other people are looking, going, your career's going to be done, because why would anyone want that kind of player on their team? So in the meantime, what Toronto FC is doing is just benching him to basically let him be known that they mean business. Let's not forget, there's a new president of MLSE, Keith Pelly. First year, sat back, just observed. Now he's going to start flexing his muscle and his opinion a little bit more. So they're going to take a little bit more of a stronger stance. But I mean, yeah, are we all, I don't know, how are you feeling? Did he play his last game? October 5th? Done. Like, we're not going to see Insigne.
I'd be shocked if he played again. I mean, you can never say never as long as he's under contract with the club, but I mean, there's just very little chance that he's going to see the field. I will say this, like, you talk about Insigne's reputation. I mean, and I'm told by multiple people that he came into camp, he was doing the bare minimum, just wasn't really committed. When you have a new manager trying to reset the tone of a club that's been like abysmal over the past couple seasons, like, he needs full buy-in. So I get it from the manager's perspective as well. But for Lorenzo Insigne, he can very easily turn to others across European football, where I'm sure he has much higher standards, say, I was sold a false bill of goods coming to Toronto FC. I thought it was going to be part of a club that was capable of winning championships. Instead, they were firing managers, players that were not good enough were being brought to this club, being given contract. I couldn't play with these players. Like,
you think many people are buying that at this point?
I think across European football, there'll be people that will see things that way. Not everyone looks at the game in the exact same way. I do believe Insigne will have an opportunity somewhere else. You know, I think his age plays against him more than the experience here against Toronto. It's completely burned the bridge in terms of North American football, but does he really care about North American football after this altogether negative experience? And it's not just from Toronto FC, it's from the league side as well. I think he's like, yeah, I'll leave. Just pay me all of my money and I can go and play somewhere else. But that's not where the negotiation is at right now.
It's not been sunshine and rainbows for Bernardeschi either, but there's at least a basic level of competitive fire that still seems to exist with him. Like, I don't see the appeal. If I'm a European club in a top league, I don't know what Lorenzo Insigne, what the appeal is at this point of his career.
All right. Well, I think this is it. I think October 5th was pretty much it, guys. I mean, if he's not even traveling with the team for the first game, he's not even on the bench. The next game for sure will be an indication as well, I think, of where this team is with Lorenzo Insigne, if we don't already know.